Michael Mayer to me, if I have a hard time looking at anyone right now and saying I'm going to take you seriously if you don't have Michael Mayer projected as a first round pick next year.
Yeah, I mean he hits every threshold that you would want at the position, right? He's 6'4.5", he's 250 plus pounds. He's got a little bit of length to him. He's incredibly physical. I mean, I saw a picture of him when he was still at Covington Catholic, Brian. I'd never seen his picture before. Like, this kid looked like almost an NFL player when he was in high school, man. Like, it was pretty insane. So he's obviously got a frame to be that type of dude. He's got a big catch radius. He wins above the rim. Physical player, both after the catch and before the catch. And you see big flashes in the run game. So I think that you could honestly have a conversation with someone about Kyle Pitts for a second and say, like, yes, Kyle Pitts is the best receiving tight end that we've saw come out in some time. But you could also say that Michael Mayer might be the best all-around tight end that may be coming around in some time because he just does everything so well. So, yes, I agree. And people are going to bring up Eric Gilbert, and they're going to bring up, there's a couple of Utah kids next year, and there's, going to be the miscellaneous players. But Michael Mayer is the best all-around tight end in college football. And for a team in Notre Dame that has historically produced the tight end position as well as anyone, NFL draft wise. I mean, he just had the best season that a Notre Dame tight end has ever had in terms of yards, catches, and touchdowns. So I think that he is the number. I would say that he and Foskey, which I know we're going to talk about next, they're the guys that I look at in Notre Dame and I say those guys could be top half of the first round type of players, like somewhere in the top 16, 20 picks, like somewhere there. I think it's safe with a guy like Michael Mayer because I just think that he's been ready to go to the NFL since almost his freshman year. Like, he was such a good player.
Yeah.
I think he could have competed in the NFL after his freshman year. Like, not saying he would have been the player he's going to be next year, obviously, because there's development that needs to happen. But this kid he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal. Top tight end in college football.
I think the thing for me too that I like that makes me feel like Michael Mayer is going to have a chance to really rise up the draft boards is that he's the opposite of what we were referring to earlier when we talked about Kevin Austin. Is when Michael's getting interviewed this spring, he's talking about, like, I just want to get better. And as soon as Coach Parker came in, he starts talking about, like, I'm doing this. And then Michael kind of joked. He's like, geez, Coach, I thought I was pretty good last year, but he was joking because his next comment was, he's like, but that's what I want. I want someone who's going to come in and push me and say, yeah, okay, you were good last year, but you need to be better. You can be better. And I think that was Jared Parker walking in and saying, I need to make a statement. And if you walk in and you look at your best player, an All-American caliber player, and you say, that's not good enough, that sends a statement to the rest of your roster, the rest of your depth chart that says, if Michael's going to get criticized for how he played, I'm going to get criticized. So I better step up and hear what coach is saying and start to work to get better. But the more important thing is Michael embraced it. And when I've talked to people, that are connected to the program in some way, shape, form, or fashion, they say that wasn't just interview talk, that Parker is constantly pushing and I say pushing and challenging. I'm talking about from a coaching standpoint. Like, that's what you should be doing. And that Michael wants it. He wants to be better. And I've heard this spring that he has been an absolute monster for Notre Dame. Like, people are saying, you should hear the things that people at Notre Dame are saying about Michael Mayer. And it's not, look, I hope, the people that I talk to that I listen to, that I would actually feel comfortable repeating what they're saying, are not people that tell me everybody's awesome, right? Like, I don't listen to those people. I listen to them, but I don't take what they say with a grain of salt. When you hear the word uncoverable, it's exactly what we saw in the spring game. DJ Brown has perfect. It was Clarence Lewis has perfect coverage on Michael, and he just snatches it like it's nothing. So to me, I do think the production is obviously there already. He's already broken every Notre Dame single season receiving record. If his game improves, especially as a blocker, I think there's no question not only is he going to be a first-round pick, he could be a top half of the draft. I'm sorry. Michael Mayer right now is a better player than TJ Hawkinson was coming out of Iowa, in my opinion. Projects to be a better player than what TJ Hawkinson was.
Especially when they were sophomores. Like, it's no conversation.
That's why I'm saying, like, projects to be what he was as a top 10 pick. So I'm not saying he's better right now than TJ was in his last year at Iowa. I'm looking at their relative careers, and then you project him. I think he's going to be a better player than TJ Hawkinson was. Now, will the two Iowa guys not playing well hurt Michael Mayer? No, because most NFL teams aren't that dumb. And, especially when you get past 13, 14, 15, you start looking at better organizations that don't often pick in the top 10. So I definitely think Michael Mayer is going to be a high draft, barring injury or, obviously something bad happening. You never know,
Yeah.
but hopefully that doesn't happen, but he's going to be a first round pick next year.
I know the mock draft that you were talking about. They were talking about in the thread, and I saw the same thing you messaged me this morning about the speed concerns. Do you have athletic concerns with Michael Mayer? I don't.
Right.
And I watched more clips of his highlights this morning just to be like, no, I'm not worried about his athleticism at all. Personally, that's just me though. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. When I hear people talk about his speed, it's like speed relative to what? You know what I mean? Like what relative to Kyle Pitts? They're completely different players. And it's like saying I'm worried about, Derrick Henry's agility compared to, Tyreek Hill or something. I mean, some player that plays a completely different game than him. And it's some of the stuff you read and it is just silly, in my opinion, just absolutely silly. And so I just, some of the stuff I just look at, Ryan, and I just kind of got to shake my head sometimes. But every other mock draft has had him going no lower than like 25th, which I think is reasonable. I mean, I think he'll be higher, but like 25th for a tight end. I mean, Tyler Eifert had 2 back-to-back great years, and he went like what 21st, 22nd, something like that. Because tight end isn't a position that you necessarily are going to see unless it's a freaky guy like a Kyle Pitts. You're usually not going to see tight ends get picked that high, like top 5 to 7. And so I could see him falling out of the top 10 just for similar reasons that Kyle Hamilton did, positional value. But to me, he's going to be coveted. And here's the other thing: you have no off the field concerns with Michael Mayer, none. And so that's another thing to factor in when you're looking at some of those other comparisons, in my opinion.
Another guy. Yeah, you got to think that he's going to test really well too. As far as like the one thing that surprised me about Michael Mayer is I thought for as big as he is, I mean, he's over 250 pounds already, is going into his junior year. But man, I thought he changed direction really well. Like he runs routes. I would be very surprised if he doesn't run a really good short shuttle, 3 cone. Like I think he changed direction really well.
I mean, he makes guys miss. I mean, we've seen him how many times make guys miss. Like I don't. You're like they act like he's like some lumbering straight ahead tight end, and I don't see that. I think that's, to me, I'll just be honest, I think that's lazy analysis because you don't see him get the ball thrown to him a lot. That's a usage problem. There's been plenty of times we've seen Michael Mayer get the ball and run, and you say, yeah, that guy can run for that size, right? And so I just felt it was honestly somebody trying to, like, I don't know, maybe take a stance that's unpopular to create conversation, maybe, perhaps, or someone who just looks for the wrong things and doesn't understand their own bias when they're evaluating things. There could be a lot of different reasons, but it was a bad mock. But it was an outlier. Every other one has had him pretty. I've seen a couple that had him in the top 10. And again, I put very little value other than they're fun conversation starters is what mocks are at this time of the year.